Delighted to be joined by Kate Barker now. She's Chief Executive of the LGB Alliance for lesbian, gay and bisexual people. A very good afternoon to you, Kate.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. I have a number of stories I want to bring up to you. I mean, honestly, if I say, like, oh, are there any items on trans? I mean, there's always about 15 in the news. We have to narrow it down. But I think the most worrying one is the National Educational Union, the NEU, is the biggest teaching union, who, in their infinite wisdom, have decided that they don't agree with the Supreme Court judgment on whether or not a woman is someone who's just sort of a figment of a man's imagination on a Wednesday afternoon, or an actual biological thing, and therefore different from a biological thing that's a man. And they've decided that they're going to campaign for schools to insist that a man who believes he is a woman or identifies as a woman will still be allowed to use the women's toilets. Now, this would quite clearly, under the Supreme Court ruling a month ago, be illegal. But the National Education Union want to push that policy in schools. What do you make of that decision?
I think it's astonishing. I mean, there's been an absolute slew of pronouncements from CEOs to their organisations saying, well, we need a little bit of time to think about this. And most worryingly, they tend to say, we'll get our EDI experts to have a look at it, which I would suggest is how we got into this problem in the first place.
Yeah, they're so expert, they misinterpreted the law for the last 10 years.
Well, I mean, exactly. And as I know everybody has been saying, this is a clarification of the law as it stands. There's nothing new about it. All it's pointing out is that you've been breaking the law for 15 years. So the suggestion that you should double down, therefore, is really absurd, particularly because if you look at any of the polls, there was a poll, I think, in the Sunday Independent this week that said, do you agree with the Supreme Court ruling that a woman refers to a biological woman? And 70% said yes, 10% said they didn't know, and 20% said no. So
I'm amazed it was that high, actually. 20% said no. So they don't think that a woman should be defined by her biological sex. That's terrifying to me.
It is terrifying, but I think those people probably just didn't understand the question. I think everybody who understands this and engages in any kind of discussion about it knows complete common sense.
What the difference is. Well, that's the thing. It's one of the reasons why I've said before, we need to stop saying, trans women. We say trans-identifying men, because huge number of people, and they talk about, well, should trans women be allowed to use women's toilets? They go, well, yeah, of course they should. And eventually, when you delve down into what people think, they genuinely think that this is either actual woman, but they've got some different identity issues, or it's a man who's had his bits cut off, everything, he's intact, he is, to all intents and purposes, a biological woman on the outside. Not the case at all. Gender recognition certificates, and that, even the vast majority of men who hold those haven't had any surgery or even had any puberty blockers or anything else. But even if they did, it wouldn't make them a woman.
You're right, and it's the capture of language that has been so complete across everything. Because if we don't have common terms that we can all agree what they mean, it's impossible to have a reasonable discussion about it. But I think that's part of the plan, actually, and this continual sort of a fog of misunderstanding that drops around us around all of these issues is deliberate. Because as soon as there is clarity, as soon as somebody gets it and cuts through, they think it's completely reasonable and it's common sense that a woman is a biological woman and therefore deserves some simple protections around dignity and respect. All reasonable people agree with that. Exactly.
But it has been interesting since the Supreme Court ruling. You had some rulings very quickly about, from the Football Association, cricket and other sports. And we had some very quick announcements from government. Holyrood, the Scottish Parliament, which has been completely insane on this issue for the last few years. They've said, OK, men, doesn't matter how they identify, can't use women's toilets because they're legally for women. And there is, if you provide something that is single sex, it has to be for only that sex. But have you been quite shocked, as I have, by the number of organisations? It's the usual. Someone referred to it the lanyard class. Victoria Packham referred to them as that. Just the Janice Turner. Sorry, that's her Twitter handle. The lanyard class of people who go, oh no, we run theatre and we think that men should be allowed into women's toilets, or people who running HR in hospitals seem to think it's okay. Because there's another case, and this involves, and we've had quite a few cases in hospitals, a particular issue for patients in terms of their privacy and their right to be seen by a woman doctor or nurse rather than by a man for certain cases, but also one of the Darlington nurses, those who were forced to share a changing room with a male doctor colleague who identified as trans and made them feel very uncomfortable watching them undress. Karen Danson is one of the 8 nurses who is suing the County Durham and Darlington NHS Foundation Trust after they allowed Rose Henderson, a man, to use women's changing facilities.
We've been tracking the responses from these organisations, and it's becoming clear that it's the ones that have an LGBTQ staff network which are the most captured. They have somehow managed to gain such power and such control within these organisations. Frankly, the management are afraid of them.
Yeah.
But they don't represent LGB people. They exclusively represent TQ plus people.
Whatever the plus is, I have never worked out what the T has got to do with the LGB, because it's nothing, you know, someone believing they're born in a different body or wants to live somewhere else. It's quite different from who you're sexually attracted to. But also the Q and the A and the I and the plus, utterly meaningless things.
Yeah, I think people are gradually starting to realise what the difference between those two things is. And you know, British people are very tolerant, I think, in the main. But it's taken decades to achieve a level of equality for gay people that's now being threatened by kind of an overreach by the TQ plus element, who've attached themselves to a legitimate movement, which is the gay rights movement, and are steadily undermining everything we do. So I'm really keen that people understand that lesbians, gay men and bisexuals have got no interest in ensuring that biological men can get undressed in front of some nurses, or that can insist on using women's toilets. It's entirely a TQ plus drive and initiative. And it's really important that people understand the difference so that we don't lose sympathy and end up with our rights being impacted as well.
Well, of course, your organisation has been accused quite falsely of being bigoted or transphobic for standing up for gay rights, and particularly, again, I know specifically the rights of lesbian women not to have men insist that, well, I call myself a woman and therefore you're bigoted if you won't agree to date me or have sex with me. Extraordinarily. Let me talk to you, though, about, so on the other side of the divide, which is a new TV series on BBC Three. I didn't know BBC Three was still a thing. Apparently it is. But pop goddess, as she's described by the BBC, Dannii Minogue, sister of Kylie, of course, who's played, you know, been judge on X Factor and things like that. She is playing Cupid in the TV series, the 2nd season of I Kissed a Boy. Now, the point of this, it's the first ever gay dating show. And they have 10 singles and they're matched up. They meet for the very first time. I mean, quite unusual from straight dating shows, or I think probably women's gay dating shows. 2 men meet up and literally the first thing they do is kiss each other, and then they see how they get on. What is very interesting is, of course, is that one of the men, in inverted commas, who is on the gay dating show for men, is actually what's called a trans man, i.e. a trans-identifying woman who is proudly showing her mastectomy scars and living with a little moustache, living as if she were, projecting herself as if she were a man. But this is not necessarily obvious to the other men that she's...
The whole thing is
What do you make about this?
It's horrible. I mean, this ideology is so bad for gay people. It either tells you you've got to date somebody of the opposite sex, or you've got to be somebody of the opposite sex. It's so homophobic, because homosexuality threatens the whole TQ plus idea, because it relies on same-sex attraction. I mean, you're right, a gay dating show that has a girl in it isn't a gay dating show. And it's so regressive. It kind of suggests to all the contestants are under pressure to say that they are attracted to this woman, otherwise they'll be branded transphobic and bigoted, even though it's absolutely, you know, natural for them not to be attracted because of their natural homosexuality. I mean, it's terrible for the girl involved as well, because it affirms this delusion that if a girl has her breasts removed and if she has short hair, that gay men will be attracted to her, and that's just false. I mean, and I think worst of all, and this is the thing that is really cynical from the BBC, is that the audience at home, the young men watching, get the message that if they are same-sex attracted, then that's unkind and that's bigoted, and they'll feel that they have to keep their exclusive homosexuality a secret. I mean, do we want in 2025 to go back to the kind of 1950s when men were having unhappy marriages and making their wives unhappy and their families unhappy, all in an effort to pretend that they really were attracted to women? So we hate it. I mean, we've written to Tim Davie and asked that this programme
BBC chairman, yeah.
It's homophobic at its core. It's really manipulative. I feel sorry for the boys in the show. I feel sorry for the girl in the show.
So
I feel
do
sorry
I.
for the gay boys watching. I think it's just awful on every count.
Yeah, and again, if it was done the other way around, when you hear women thinking they were with other women, and actually it was a man, I like to think some people might also speak up about that. But again, gay men have been forgotten in all of this and lumped in again with a lot of this agenda. It is extraordinary. And Dannii Minogue certainly has always been, like her sister, a big heroine of the gay scene. And I'm very surprised by this. But again, anyone speaking out, obviously transphobic and bigoted, as opposed to no. That's not what we are. That's not who we're attracted to.
Yeah, absolutely. It's this sense that being inclusive means that means having no boundaries.
Yeah.
Which is really dangerous, particularly when it's aimed at, and this show really is aimed at young people.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been speaking to a lot of young people recently who tell me that to say I'm a gay man or I'm a lesbian, it's considered to be a kind of a red flag by the LGBTQ plus community, because that in and of itself suggests that you might not be open to dating somebody who's the opposite sex, and that's pretty frowned upon.
It's just extraordinary. The world has gone completely and utterly mad. Well, we know that what you do at LGB Alliance is fantastic work. Kate Barker, thank you for joining us. Sam Armstrong is still in the studio. It is extraordinary. The BBC mainstreams this, but the BBC is bloody obsessed with trans. They will shoehorn trans into anything and everything. But a gay dating show for men, they did a gay dating show for women, so you don't expect women in it. A gay dating show for men should only have men in it. Full stop. What's complicated about that?
Julia, across this country, 10% of all criminal convictions in our courts are against primarily women who are criminalised, who are dragged through the courts, convicted of criminal offence for not paying their TV licence fee. Because we are told that the stuff that this organisation makes is essential to our national debate, our life, our vision. What the hell are they doing commissioning this show in the first place? It seems bizarre. It seems...
We have dating shows. Got no issue with there being a gay dating show.
Oh, but it's online only. Nobody will watch the chuffing thing, and then they have to use it as an instrument to push yet another
agenda.
Social
It's like the drag queens constantly for the children's TV.
It's just boring. Yawn. There's a reason that Netflix isn't making this, because no one wants to watch it. We're told we have to have it. We're told we have to pay for it. The lanyard class, as you say, they know better than us. They know what gay men should be attracted to.
Yeah.
They know what we should find entertaining, and they know that whatever happens, we, muggins over here, should be paying for it.
Exactly.